I love it. The violence, the gore. This is the Wolverine that we've been waiting for as a video game for ages, and that's what people are believing that they're getting with Insomniac's new Wolverine game. At least that's what the trailer is showing, but a lot of people are suspecting that we may be getting something else that is not truly Wolverine. But it's hard to say that when we watch this trailer. This trailer has all the violence and everything that we want to see from a Wolverine game, and I think that's the thing that is highly deceiving of the situation, because when you look at the details surrounding the creation of Insomniac's Wolverine, you automatically start seeing the hints of something that's going to be much more in line with Spider-Man 2, where we have a sideline main character focused on representation and diversity, and focused on things outside of the character itself. And I think this is the thing that I have slight trepidation with this game, but it looks awesome so far. But for how long? That is the question gamers are asking. And you don't need to look any further than Spider-Man 2 to realize that that is the case. Because it seemed like yesterday gamers were happy to see Spider-Man be developed from a Western gaming studio. And that happiness quickly dissipated with the coming years, where we saw legacy characters decimated, destroyed, and tore down by those very same studios that cherished them and made unrivaled successes for their games. And this is what we're seeing with Wolverine, coming from the same developers of the Spider-Man series. If you told me about this during Spider-Man 1 that we were going to get a Wolverine game, I would have been excited. I would have told you this is the best game that's ever going to come out. I love what they did with Spider-Man 1. We're going to get an amazing rendition of a Marvel character. But after the past 10 years of what we've been seeing in the gaming industry, my doubts are growing. And more than doubts, there are certainties that we're going to get a terrible game with one of the most iconic characters in Marvel's legacy. And people are going to say, hey, what are you talking about? Why would you think Wolverine game would be terrible? I would think that way because Spider-Man 2 was terrible. I know some people are going to say, hey, Spider-Man 2 was okay, I guess. I like some of the parts of the game when you were Peter Parker. I like, sure, we had terrible Mary Jane OP sequences. We had a story that was nonsensical. Venom would look cool at least, even though his story was stupid too. This is the situation that we're in right now with the current video gaming market, where the people developing the current generation of games are just not that talented, and many of that talent that was there for the initial releases of those games have been subsequently pushed out, and they're not producing the content that we're seeing nowadays from these developers. And if they are there, they're more mature and more in line with the ideologies that are maligning and destroying these franchises. And this is exactly what we saw from Sony's State of Play and the introduction of the Wolverine game. And people are still excited for this game, but I think they're less enthusiastic, especially gamers that experienced Spider-Man 2, where you're looking at that game and thinking, where did all the story go? Where did all the precision with making these characters relatable and likable? Where did the attention to nonsensical political issues become at the forefront of this game? And I think that's the situation that we're definitely going to see in Wolverine. And I think that's the thing that is depressing fans with the recent trailer and preview of this game, where we're just looking at it and thinking, this is not really the game I wanted to play. Yeah, sure, has some action sequences that maybe look engaging, but some other character presentations and looks and appeals are right in line with what we've been seeing for disaster titles that have been coming out for the past 10 years under this new modern gaming guideline, where games are meant to be representation icons of ideologies rather than fun romps into fantastical worlds. And I think that's the thing that's missing from this Wolverine game. It looks like a cosplay game, and I think that's the thing I have a problem with, the look of the character, with the look of Wolverine, with the look of everything related to this game. I like some of the action sequences, but it just doesn't look like the Wolverine I want to actually play as. It looks like a Wolverine that has been removed of all the angst and gruffness to be a more sensitive version of Wolverine that is bossed around by a boss lady, Jean Grey. And I think that's the thing that a lot of gamers are seeing from this. And I know what you're going to say. This game is pretty violent. How do you say that this is a sensitive Wolverine? But this is all a mirage. This is something to cover up all the details that they want to actually impose inside the game. And that's what's hidden in this trailer. There are small hints of that. And it all goes back to the roots of what happened to this game during its production process, because it has the people that we hate the most involved in gaming, that are more focused on these ideologies and representation icons rather than producing a high quality game. And I think that is the thing people are noticing with some of the character designs and looks. Of course, the face and image that stood out the most has to be Mystique. People noticed that similar design that we saw in previous models in the leaks for Wolverine that look exactly like this character, this mannish design pattern that is so prevalent in the video gaming industry today. It's not even only on Mystique. We saw this with other characters in the leaks as well that had this mannish design pattern. Just look at Jean Grey as well. When you look at Jean Grey herself, you already know this game is going to be doomed. It has that grocery store auntie look that is a defining feature for a lot of modern female designs in gaming, where if you have a canonically beautiful, very attractive character, you have to make them look like your aunt. And I think that's the thing that we see here with Jean Grey. We have to make them the bossy aunt that you just don't want to even be next to. And I think that's the thing that we consistently see with these new iterations of characters. We saw this in all throughout the video gaming industry. And I think more specifically, we saw this in the change of Mary Jane from Spider-Man 1 to Spider-Man 2, where they gave her a young grocery store auntie look, where she didn't look exactly that much older, but she looked like a younger version of a grocery store auntie, like a prequel to the grocery store auntie design that we usually see. And this translates to a lot of characters in the current video gaming market, where you're supposed to de-emphasize these feminine attractive features in for more mature grocery store auntie look that probably resembles some of the older marketing, HR staff, writers that are in the room that are producing these games right now, where you have these influences in game directors and people that are just not strictly interested in producing good content and more than anything want to see themselves in the game. And that's exactly what we saw with Spider-Man 2. We saw a lot of these designs that were meant for the people that are writing the game, meant for the people that are directing the game, meant for the people that are just not specifically interested in this game. And I think this is what we saw with Black Cat, where she looked like one of the writers for the game. It just looks like a game that is being made for self-inserts for characters. And this is what we often see when female-led teams take over these male-oriented products. This is what we saw with Star Wars, where every female character just started looking like Kathleen Kennedy. This is what we see with Rings of Power, where every single female character looks like the former CEO of Amazon Studios, where this is the orientation of the design and overall projection of the game, so look like the people creating the game. And I think that's the thing that gaming has never been about. When a lot of people in the 90s and the 2000s made games, they made the people look superior than themselves. They made them look like fantastical characters that they admired to be. But this is the opposite orientation that we see in the current gaming market. They want to bring down the characters. They don't want the idealistic form. They want something that is lower than themselves or equal to themselves being represented on the screen. And that is just simply not the makeup of making a fantasy hero story. And I think that's the thing that's reflected in Wolverine right now, where it just looks too grounded. It looks like a game that is being made to be trapped in this world, the current day world, the world that had a pandemic shutdown, the world that is just not that fun or interesting at all. And I think that is the sorry state of gaming when that's what we get from this trailer, where it looks like a place I wouldn't want to go to in my own fantasies. And that is a problem if you're trying to make a game focus on heroism and fantastical elements and superpowers. These people don't look like people I want to be at all. I think that's the thing that is being lost in the current generation of game developers. And I think this is at the root and cause of what's happening with Insomniac and Wolverine. First of all, they brought in the people at the core of destroying the gaming industry. I'm talking about Sweetbaby Inc. Sweetbaby Inc. We're celebrating their direct influence on these games. Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine that came out. And they specifically have credits on Spider-Man 2. And you can see it plainly with the LGBTQ relationships, the flags, the focus on Miles Morales, the degradation of Peter Parker, where he can't even pick up a refrigerator on his back. You have the overhype and overpoweredness of Mary Jane and changing of her looks to look like more of an auntie. This is the direction of Sweetbaby Inc. That is their main focus of reorienting and changing the gaming industry to be in line with their personal ideology and politics. And this is the thing that we constantly see with Sweetbaby Inc., where they're not focused on gameplay. They're not focused on having something fun for the game players to actually play. They're more focused on representation. And that's what we see play out with all Sweetbaby Inc. games, where they come in and say, hey, we're going to bring in our ideology. We're going to bring in our political savviness and try to make a game for our own politics, not for the gamers, not even for casual gamers or mobile gamers or any type of gamer. They're just there to make something for themselves who don't play games, who are not interested in the story and lore. They're making things for people that might read a review for political reasons. So that's the people they're aiming for, political reviewers or political shills. And see it with the characters that Wolverine is fighting in the game. They all have that DEI element. They all have that diverse element, and you can just see that is the aim of the people making this game. They're adding bits and pieces that is just undeniable that this game is oriented in that direction. And I think that's the thing that we keep seeing happening in the current gaming market, where games are being made by a committee for politicians rather than actual gamers themselves. And I think that's the thing that we see with Sweetbaby Inc. and their involvement with this Wolverine game, where you see the director, or you see the creative director of the project being kicked out, and more people that are focused on narrative design being brought in. Mary Keeney, who came in subsequently after as a writer and narrative designer, right after the creative director was pushed out, and she worked on titles that were specifically related to Sweetbaby in games. And I think this is a situation we keep catching up within the gaming industry, where we have these political operatives that are just moving in between video game organizations and they're ruining franchises. And I think this is the thing that we're seeing with Wolverine. Wolverine is the next victim of that, and is clearly reflective of what we're seeing within the game itself. And unfortunately for us gamers, there's little we can do about it. This is the future of gaming. This is what they want gaming to be. They want demasculinized, less heroic males with some action just to pull you in. And these heroic males have to be bossed around by a grocery store auntie that knows better than them and is annoying as hell. And I think this is what we see here in the future of this game. I think we're going to see more grocery store aunties. We're going to have Asian aunties. We're going to have black aunties. Wolverine is going to be bossed around by every auntie in the book, every race of auntie, and I think that's the thing that gamers are just not very hyped about. At least for me, I'm tired of being bossed around by aunties in video games, and I think this is the general sentiment, at least for myself, after playing Insomniac Games, after playing multitude of games, where I'm just like, can the male character just be a savage? Can't we just have the Wolverine Origins game remastered? I'd rather play that game, and I think that's what gamers are talking about today. They want to see that savagery of Wolverine back, and I think we see a little bit of it, but we already know they're going to curtail it with this annoying multitude of random boss ladies that Wolverine has to follow the guidance of. And it's just, that's just the model of entertainment today. If you're going to make a strong male character, he has to have 10 boss ladies bossing him around. We see this with James Bond. We see this with Black Panther. We see this even with a new Blade movie. They wanted to surround him by black aunties. I'm like, no, just have Blade be Blade, have Wolverine be Wolverine, have him tearing up stuff on his own accord, not listening to anyone. But no, we're going to get grocery store auntie Wolverine. And that is just not the Wolverine I want to see represented in gaming. But that is just my 2 cents on the situation. Maybe you disagree with me. Tell me what you think. Wolverine trailer, I think it was mid. It wasn't that great. I like some of the action elements, but I already can tell the story's going to be terrible, and they're going to be overly focused on the message, and I don't want to hear the message of any kind that's focused on politics or anything else. I just want to have a fun Wolverine game that is not grounded in the modern day world. But tell me what you think. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Like, comment, share, subscribe. This is Wagner Knows Why. Catch you next time.